Welcome to this philosophical explainer. Take a quick look around you right now. You probably see a world made up of solid, static objects, right? Like a desk, your coffee cup, maybe a tree outside the window. But what if that static, stable world is actually a complete illusion? Today, we're going to dive deep into the architecture of flow and explore one of history's most radical, brilliant thinkers, Heraclitus of Ephesus. Let me hook you right off the bat with a really famous puzzle that totally challenges our gut instinct about reality. Can you step into the same river twice? Seriously, just think about it for a second. Our everyday logic screams, well, yeah, of course. The river has a name, it's right there on Google Maps, it looks exactly the same today as it did yesterday. But Heraclitus, he wants to take a sledgehammer to that comfortable assumption. His answer to this puzzle is absolutely brilliant. He says you cannot step twice into the same river, for fresh waters are ever flowing in upon you. But, what's really fascinating here isn't just the words themselves, it's the tone behind them. Heraclitus didn't just casually teach this like some detached, dusty academic. Historical sources tell us he spoke with the literal fire and urgency of a prophet. He was desperately trying to wake up a sleeping humanity. He looked at everyone walking around believing in solid, permanent things, and he essentially shouted at them that reality is just constant, inescapable change. Which brings us to Section 1, Fire, the ultimate process. So if everything is always flowing like water, what is the world actually made of? Before Heraclitus, early Greek philosophers were hunting for a static, underlying building block of the universe. Thales said, hey, everything essentially boils down to water. And Anaximander argued for something he called the limitless, which was this indefinite cosmic substance. But notice, they were both looking for a static thing. Heraclitus, on the other hand, identified the ultimate reality as a dynamic process. He didn't pick a solid object, he picked an event. He picked fire. Here's exactly how he put it. This world was ever, is now, and ever shall be, an ever-living fire, with measures of it kindling and measures going out. So the absolutely crucial point to grasp is that fire here isn't just a literal physical element, like the logs burning in your campfire. No, it's a brilliant, perfect metaphor for continuous becoming, consumption, and transformation. Think about it. Fire is never static. To exist as fire is to be constantly moving, constantly eating, and constantly changing state. And that brings us to his core paradigm shift. Being does not exist, there is only becoming. Look, if you take only one single thing away from this explainer, let it be this. The universe is not a collection of permanent things. It's an endless series of events and processes. That chair you're sitting on right now, it's not a static object. It's actually just a very, very slow process of decay and change. There is no permanent is, there's only an ongoing, fiery becoming. Moving on to Section 2, War and the Unity of Opposites. Now, you're probably thinking, if everything is just fiery change and constant becoming, how does the universe hold its shape? Like, why doesn't it just instantly explode or collapse into nothingness? Well, Heraclitus boldly declared, war is the father and king of all. This is a huge, stark contrast with his predecessor, Anaximander. Anaximander thought that cosmic conflict and opposites were a kind of injustice, a cosmic mistake that eventually had to be corrected back into peaceful unity. But Heraclitus? He saw war, the clash, the struggle, the inherent tension of opposites, as the absolutely necessary force that literally holds reality together. Think about a drawn bow. It's the perfect metaphor. If you look at a drawn bow, you have the wood pulling forcefully in one direction and the string pulling in the exact opposite direction. It's quite literally in a state of war. But it is precisely this opposing, contradictory force that creates a unified, functioning, powerful whole. If you remove the tension, if you resolve the so-called war between the string and the wood, the bow just ceases to exist. It instantly becomes a useless stick and a limp piece of twine. He absolutely loved to mess with our conventional logic to prove this point. Just listen to these paradoxical formulas. Mortals are immortals. The beginning and end of a circle are the same. The way up and the way down are one. Now, on the surface, sure, it sounds like he's just speaking in mystical riddles, but he's actually enthusiastically pointing out that a staircase going up is literally the exact same staircase going down. It entirely depends on the intention of your perspective. His point is that without multiplicity and conflict, there can be absolutely no unity. Let's dive into Section 3, Logos, the Cosmic Law. Okay, so you might be wondering, what exactly keeps this chaotic war of opposites from just turning into total unpredictable randomness? Well, it's the Logos. And what's super fascinating is the sheer depth of this ancient Greek word. Logos translates to word, proportion, thought, meaning, and reason or law. For Heraclitus, logos is the unchanging measure. It's the strict underlying ratio and universal law that dictates exactly how the cosmic fire kindles and goes out. It's what ensures the cosmos maintains its perfect, delicate balance. The sun won't overstep its bounds because the logos dictates its precise path. But here is where his philosophy gets wildly provocative. He says, time is a child playing checkers. The kingdom belongs to a child. That is such a striking metaphor. And by the way, it's one that the philosopher Nietzsche completely admired. It shows us that the logos, this grand cosmic law, has absolutely zero human moral purpose. It isn't trying to achieve some grand utopian end goal for humanity. It just constantly creates and destroys, exactly like an innocent child building sandcastles on the beach and then joyfully picking them down. It is pure, unending cosmic play. Now for Section 4, the physics of the soul. Let's bring this abstract cosmic physics right back down to Earth for a minute. How does all this apply to human psychology? Well, Heraclitus applied these exact same fiery rules to our minds. He believed that an awake, wise, and conscious soul is a dry soul, fueled by the element of fire. But an asleep, ignorant, or literally drunk soul, that's a wet soul dragged down by the element of water. He actually wrote that a drunk man stumbles because his soul has literally become moist. The water extinguishes his inner logos. Wild, right? This crucial point is beautifully captured in this thought. The waking have one common world, but the sleeping turn aside each into a world of his own. True wisdom, having a dry, fiery, awake soul, is waking up to recognize that shared universal logos. It's about seeing the grand cosmic flow. But the sleeping people? They're trapped in the wet, subjective illusion that the world is made of static, permanent things. They are quite literally sleepwalking through reality. Finally, Section 5, the legacy of Heraclitus. When we zoom out and look back, the shadow Heraclitus cast over all subsequent Western philosophy is truly massive. The classical philosophers that followed inherited a world profoundly altered by his ideas. He directly shaped the trajectory of thinkers like Plato. In fact, Plato took Heraclitus's concept of constant physical flux and merged it with Parmenides' concept of static being to create his entire dualistic system. Aristotle engaged with him deeply, and later skeptics used his teachings on constant change to argue against the very idea of absolute permanent knowledge. But without a doubt, his biggest inheritors were the Stoics. They essentially built their entire ethical and physical system on his foundations. They adopted the idea that the universe is made of divining intelligent fire. They took the logos and made it the rational fate that governs all things. And they fully adopted his cosmic cycles to create the concept of the eternal return. This incredible idea that the universe is periodically consumed by a great fire and reborn in an endless, beautiful loop. Which leaves us with a final, vital question to close out this explainer. Are you walking through life awake to the logos, or are you wandering around with a wet, sleeping soul? Are you clinging to the illusion of permanence, getting frustrated when things inevitably change? Or can you accept the fire, embrace the tension of the bow, and learn to flow with the endless becoming of the universe? Think about that the next time you look at a river. Keep learning, keep questioning, and above all, stay awake.